Welcome back to Fresh Set. I'm Sabrina.
And I'm Kevin.
And we're back in person.
Finally. It's been a while. It's been 2 months?
Something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that. We're back in person in Imola. We are drinking wine in honor of Italy.
Salute.
Okay.
And it is Italian wine.
It is Italian wine, so.
And hopefully I said it right, because Bianca will just rip me a new one.
Rip you a new one.
Yeah, well, I guess you won't see it on it, but yeah.
Eventually.
Yeah.
Today we had the Imola Grand Prix.
Yeah.
I'm not going to attempt to say the entire name, which is...
I couldn't even... I know it starts with MSC Cruises and ends with 2024.
Yeah.
So somewhere in between there, yeah.
Leave it
and
there.
Somewhere it's made in Italy.
We'll just... Imola is good enough. The race was a decent time for us, 9 a.m.
Yeah, it was great.
And it was uneventful. Eventfully uneventful.
Yeah, I mean, there were some decent moments, particularly to the end. But after just us being tense in the first couple of corners, where we thought something was going to happen, which they predicted 100% in this race, that there was going to be a safety car.
Yes.
And there was absolutely nothing.
There was nothing.
Nothing.
No fights in the midfield.
Not
nothing
much,
really at the back.
No, the most fights were people coming out of the pits and just trying to get through traffic.
Yeah.
But I guess we're
going to get into it.
Yeah, we say that a lot.
We do say that a lot. We're going to get into it, we promise.
Yeah.
But this is our first European race.
Yeah.
So starting it off in Italy, and then we're heading to Monaco next week.
Before we come back to Canada, and then back to Europe.
And we'll be back in Italy in September.
September 1st is the race. Yeah, September 1st.
So jumping into Imola Grand Prix, winner Max
Verstappen.
Back on the podium.
Took pole.
Yes.
8th straight pole, going back to, was it Abu Dhabi? I believe it was in 2023.
Yeah.
Tying Senna's record of 8 consecutive poles.
And he converted into a win. And on Friday, nobody thought he was going to take pole or a win.
No.
The car just was not looking good.
I mean, it's just more the same for Max. I mean, I love the guy, but it's always just a complaint about how the car is shit.
Yes.
The wheels aren't turning. The wheels suck. Something's not right. And I mean, it wasn't a huge margin of a win this week, but he not even pretty comfortably, I guess, took pole. Took pole by 6/100ths of a second.
Yep. So
not a lot.
No, he struggled this weekend, and I think you saw that in his. I've said this to you a couple of times now, just how reactive and emotive he was with getting pole. He was like, woohoo, going off, which he never does. No. He's just like, great, we'll see you tomorrow. We'll be
It's the Max of old. Yeah, it's like he's got an actual fight on his hands. Yeah.
And so even when he won today, I think he was saying on the radio, tough one, but glad we did it. And pulled it out somehow. And I mean, he did have to fight towards the end. We know him the last couple of years of winning by 6, 7, 26 seconds ahead. And this time he won by
7/100ths of a second.
It was
7/10 of a second. Sorry, not 7/100ths.
Lando was on him.
He was on him. Yeah, he gave him a fight, which shows like how much of the gap has been closed over the last 2 years.
Yes.
Which will make 2025 probably a lot more interesting before the regulation changes.
I think even before we get to 2025.
Probably.
I think the rest of the season.
I believe you're right, but I'm just. Maybe I'm thinking too far ahead, but yeah.
He's probably going to pull out more wins for the rest of this
Maybe,
season.
but I don't think they'll be comfortable wins. I did. We still have to go back through our predictions, but I did predict that he'd be ahead at the break, and he would lose ultimately.
But predicted that he'd be ahead but lose
to Charles. So I don't think it's going to be Charles. I don't think, but I might be half right in that prediction. Okay. I might be half.
Give you half points for that. Okay, got it. Yeah, I mean, I think Red Bull and Ferrari are catching, or McLaren and Ferrari are catching the Red.
Yeah, it's not the other Red Bull catching the Red Bull. It's definitely not, especially after today.
Yeah, no, today Checo fell completely off.
I mean, he was nowhere this weekend, and then even less so by the end of it. He was nowhere. He was being passed by everybody.
Yeah. I mean, I will say, Max had his moments during free practice. I don't remember which one. Going into the gravel, spinning.
Sure. It's an
normal.
Unforgiving track. It is.
Yeah. So, I think both Red Bulls struggled. They came out with the win. Again, had to fight for it. Max didn't have much of a battery towards the end of
he was defending.
The
last probably 8 laps maybe.
Yeah. I mean, you saw Lando's time. He was at 6 seconds, and I mean, we're watching the race, and Bianca is saying, "Oh, he's not going to catch him," and sure enough, you saw that 6 seconds go down to 5.7, and it just kept going further and further down. Yeah. But Lando got second. I think he said it in his post-race interview, and I would agree. If there was 2 or 3 more laps, he would have got him.
I think so, 100%.
Yeah, I think Max didn't have the time.
I don't know that necessarily he would have passed him. I mean, you see Max when he's forced to defend can be quite aggressive, and push those limits. Yeah. So I don't know that he would necessarily have passed him before Lando crapped his pants. But it would have been close. It would have been a much closer fight. Yeah, well, and definitely. I
mean, we also have to say Max was on track limits. He couldn't.
He had 3 track limits. No, he couldn't make a mistake, and that's why I think that's also why Lando was able to close the gap so easily in the last few laps, because Max was really trying to keep it within the white lines.
Yeah, he had to. Yeah. He had no choice, or it would be a 5-second penalty
and
for him.
He would have been out. Yeah.
And I don't know if you guys can see, Harley has joined us.
You hear a ding somewhere. But,
So, yeah, I mean, I think overall, kind of a boring race, other than the last 8 or so.
Yeah, not a lot. I mean, you had nothing in the back at all. Nothing at all. Stroll, surprisingly, was making his way through the pack a bit.
Yeah. But quietly.
Quietly, yeah. Nothing. Yeah, not a lot of fighting. The biggest fight was probably Piastri trying to get past Sainz for a while.
Yes.
Probably 8 or 9 laps.
Yeah.
And it's just their pit stop strategy worked for them, and he was able to get ahead of him pretty easily. And then after he got ahead of him, you didn't hear their names for the rest of the race.
No.
Half the race.
I don't even know what we heard for half the race.
Not much. Not much. Actually, we were calling out more than the commentators were.
Yes.
There was that Lewis runoff where he went into the gravel, and I saw a cloud of smoke. I'm like, who went off in the gravel? He's like, oh wait, something happened. What's that smoke? I'm like, are they watching the race?
No, they weren't.
Which was we talked about it. This was Crofty's first race of 3. I think he's missing this season, where he's not commentating.
No,
not fun.
No, and we didn't hear lights out and away we go.
No, it was
the Grand
not that he did a bad job. No. Whoever it was, he didn't do
Gary Benjamin, I think.
Yeah, he didn't do a bad job. I think he did a pretty decent job.
Yeah,
but it's not what we're used to. There was no Brundle. There was no Crofty. It wasn't the same.
It wasn't.
And it being a boring race, a somewhat boring race, I think it just brought to light more. Like Crofty and Brundle would have livened it up a little bit more. Yeah, 100%.
To get the crowd going, or the audience going, everybody at home. But I mean, I think overall we got through it. We got through the first one. So it was Max, Lando, and Charles in third.
Yeah.
Which shocking revelation of Charles being the first Ferrari driver on the podium in Imola since Michael Schumacher in 2006. 18 years. Wow.
18 years.
18 years since a Ferrari driver has been on a podium in
Imola. Yeah.
That is.
So they haven't had a lot to cheer for.
No. Yes, I think the third place they were very happy.
I mean, last year he probably would have been. I mean, he was good enough to be probably on pole, but they flooded out and they were cleaning the streets last year. But Yuki was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yuki was.
I mean, he lives there, so he's doing his part.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. So it's still like 18 years out of.
That just seems.
I know there was a gap
crazy.
between when they had Imola there,
Yes.
but it wasn't 18 years.
No.
I
don't think so. I mean, Ferrari has won on Italian soil, but just at Monza.
Yes.
Not in Imola.
Yeah.
So good for all three of them. I think he was also happy with that third place, being in Italy, just wanting to.
I don't know. I think he was relieved that he got a podium. I think he didn't expect to be in third. I didn't think he was expecting the power of the McLarens this weekekend.
He did say that in his post interview as well, that he saw how fast they were.
Yeah. It's now a three dog race.
Yeah.
I mean, I know Red Bull already had the head start, but they're bringing that fight to them, which means, like what happens when Ferrari and McLaren are able to get past a Red Bull? Does Red Bull make more mistakes? Now, do they have any DNFs, which they weren't subject to in the last couple of years?
Right. And if Red Bull or if Ferrari and McLaren consistently have their drivers finish ahead of Checo, and I'm just going to call it out as it is.
Well, because you'll probably post it on Instagram if you haven't already.
Yeah.
This was Checo's worst finish of the season. They didn't just say
Sky Sports
lowest,
said that, not us.
Worst P8, worst of the season.
Yeah.
Really, really driving it home.
Yeah.
That he was not only the worst of his season, but he was so far behind his teammate.
Yeah.
Not like everybody else who finished above him, where they were all in close proximity.
Call it out.
Well, they were everybody else. The Mercedes, the Red Bulls. The Mercedes, the McLarens, and the Ferraris were both bookended by Red Bulls.
Yeah. So
terrible.
Yeah, I mean,
terrible. When you're the fastest car on the grid,
you know what?
when you're the fastest car on the grid and you're slower than the Mercedes, for arguably a team that's, I don't want to say given up, but they know there's no hope of really catching second or third in the season.
No,
it's writing's on the wall.
Yeah, they're just racing because they have to.
Well, sure, they put enough money into it. They have to.
Contractually, they have to race.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think if you have two drivers from two other teams consistently finishing ahead of one of your drivers, it's just automatically going to build points.
Yeah.
Math is math, and I'm not good at it.
Well, I mean, Max did win it on his own last year. He had enough points to win it on his own because there was enough fighting behind him.
Yeah.
If it keeps going like this, it'll happen exactly the same as it did last year. But
he's having to fight this.
He's having to fight. So
the last two races, he's had to fight.
Why I feel like there's going to be some mistakes. There's going to be some mistakes, and it's not going to be the easy championship that he had last year, where by the break we knew he was going to win.
No.
We knew it wasn't mathematical yet, but we knew he was going to win it.
Yeah. It'll be an interesting rest of the season.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm happy.
I'm happy. I think this is kind of what people wanted.
I'm also happy that it's McLaren that's bringing the fight to everybody else as well.
See.
Okay. Yeah, I know.
I want the Ferrari.
I really couldn't care less. I couldn't care less. Okay. I like Ferrari. I don't care.
Yeah. I mean,
I'd rather it not be them.
If it's going to be anybody, I want it to be Lando. But
I thought you would have said Leclerc.
Well, I mean, if it has to be a McLaren.
Oh, okay. If it has to be a McLaren.
It has to be a McLaren. Then, I mean, if it was.
Well, it's between McLaren and Piastri, but I don't mind. Whatever.
Whichever.
I don't mind.
So yeah, I mean, I think that was kind of it for.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot. It was more so. There was a lot of news this week. There was a lot of off-track kind of fun team radios, interviews that were a little more fun than the actual race was. The race was uneventful.
Yeah.
It was uneventful. Not that we want anybody to crash, but there was a little bit of contact between Stroll and Ocon, I believe it was, at one point.
I think so, yeah. Coming close to close.
It was Stroll, but I believe it was Ocon,
yeah.
Yeah. Where they actually touched, and nothing came of it. Nobody had a puncture. Nobody had any damage. No safety car. Not even a virtual safety car. I mean,
Albon's team, Williams just didn't know how to put tires on.
That was it. That was it. And it still wasn't a safety car. They just let him drive off the track line, and he came around, ended up 2 laps behind everybody.
Yeah.
Drove until lap 54, 55, something like that. And they said, I'll just bring it in.
Just bring it in.
Yeah, it's just not destroy the chassis this week.
4 pit stops. Some teams only had one.
Well,
a few had two, but he had
two within a whole lap.
Yeah.
So they had to put back on the mediums, which was weird.
Yeah.
Which meant they had to put on another set of tires afterwards. Whatever. They have their reasons for it. It's just Harley in the background trying to get something. But yeah, that was it for the race. Really, not a lot.
Yeah.
The team radios, like I said, the team radios were more interesting on the race side than anything else.
Yeah.
Like Max and GP.
Always.
Yeah.
It's always those two just kind of
just being little bitches to each other.
Yeah.
It's just that's
like
all
in
it
the
was.
nicest. This one was like in the nicest way. Like,
but now that we know it's not nice.
Yeah.
Like before we used to think that it was GP was just like, okay, I'm just going to shut up because you're the driver. But now we know that he actually gives it back to him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes it even funnier.
GP was telling him to push, but keep it on the limit kind of.
Yeah.
And Max said, that's what I'm doing. He says, well, I'm just giving you some information. Well, me too.
Yeah. Well, me too. Okay. Like just two.
Like the most childish shit.
Like, yeah.
That's what I hear from my kids.
Yeah.
That's
Thanks, Dad.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the radios were kind of funny. We also had the pit lane walk where
that was very awkward. A lot of it was awkward.
A lot of it was
awkward. Because they had no Martin Brundle, I guess they weren't expecting who was grid walking maybe.
Yeah.
They had Karun was talking to Eddie Irvine.
Yeah.
And asked him how does it feel to be a Ferrari driver driving in Italy in Imola with all the Tifosi here. And he says, I don't know. I'm just here as a spectator. Well, no kidding. Like, you're not wearing a race suit. We know you've retired. It's like, but I'm just trying to adapt. And like, that's not the question. And Karun had the most awkward face. Yeah. I've seen. He's like, I just want this to be over. Yeah, it's like, just stop talking.
Can we go
and
now?
And Eddie Irvine just rambled and rambled. And I don't know if he heard the question properly.
It's probably so loud. But still.
He either heard the question wrong or he was hammered.
Yeah.
So who knows?
Had some wine.
Yeah, probably a little.
It's all good.
At a ristorante and just working on it. And then we had the interview with Max.
The interview with Max.
Yeah, Max was coming out of the paddock to the grid for the opening ceremonies.
Yes.
And he was already in an interview with somebody. I don't know what outlet it was.
We need to find the video.
It didn't seem like there was a camera following the guy, so it was just a recording probably. And Sky Sports was wanting an interview with him, so they were waiting patiently.
They were patient.
Yeah, I mean, it was only like 3-4 seconds. And some dude, probably about 6'2", in a white shirt,
just
manhandled this guy. Grabbed him by the arm and ragdolled him all the way out of the frame and out of the way. And Max was taken back. He was like, sorry, man.
What happened? And then you just picked up with Sky Sports.
Then
just continued.
But the way he was manhandled, like it looked like you've seen those videos of like a bouncer grabbing somebody by the shoulders. This guy did it with one hand and he just tossed him.
How demeaning.
Yeah.
Do you feel like a man? Like
I wouldn't. I didn't feel like a man watching it. I didn't.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of embarrassing.
It was very embarrassing.
All right.
So moving on from Max.
Yeah. Got some news of the week.
News of the week, because the race sucked. It didn't suck. I mean,
it just wasn't.
It was exciting in the last few laps.
Yeah.
That was
about
it. Because we were looking for things.
We
were looking up and down the grid like at some point.
Always important. Yeah. And it was like a clean getaway.
Yeah, and at some point, like the gap between like 5th and 6th was 30 seconds.
Yeah,
it was weird.
I don't know how that happened.
I don't either.
Missed that.
Yeah,
maybe they didn't even cover it
when we were looking. They didn't. They didn't cover anything.
No, they did not.
Even today, Karun made the point where, even as they were looking for like replays and stuff, they just weren't showing it.
No, it wasn't showing up on the screen. The replay of the start was.
It was very disjointed today. Yeah, it was weird.
Anyways, news.
Was it this week that Kimi Antonelli did practice, or was it's supposed to be next week?
I think it's Monaco.
Oh, is it Monaco?
Ollie did one with Haas this week.
Ollie after he crashed his F2 car into the wall. Yeah, which he has more F1 points than he does F2 points. He's only got 2 F2 points, and he's got 6 F1 points.
It's all good.
Yeah, that's really not even really much of a,
it's not much
news. No. There's a few updates, a lot of it coming around team signings. So actually one was that there's rumors that Zhao is going to Haas, obviously because it looks like the stake is not keeping any driver.
No. Getting rid of the
Well,
whole...
we know Nico's going
Yeah.
to stake.
Yeah.
And then it's whether Carlos comes now or when they become Audi. That's what it looks like.
Yes.
But also the other stake driver, Bottas, interest from Alpine and Williams. Yeah, going back to Williams possibly. He had a meeting with Williams this weekend.
A
half an hour meeting with James Vowles.
At the track.
Yeah. Which, if you've seen the pictures, like he comes out, he's obviously very visibly green.
He's in green.
Because he was in his uniform already. And everybody that's in that frame is staring to see what the hell is going on.
Yeah.
This doesn't make any sense. It's all blue, and you just see this lime green coming out.
Man with a mullet coming out of...
This Australian coming out of it.
So, I mean, Alpine also interested, which is interesting because...
Well, they haven't signed either driver yet.
They haven't, but this new French team, being like, just having the two French drivers for the French team, it just all seemed to come together. It hasn't come together. Yeah. And then all of a sudden they're going to switch it up. I mean...
Well, I think it's a no-brainer that one of them's going to be gone.
Yes.
It's not working there. One. I mean, Ocon has done the better of it this year so far. It pains me to say.
Yeah.
Gasly's he's had a really bad year.
Yeah.
A really bad year, like non-existent.
Yeah.
Not a sniff at the points, not a sniff at danger, not even a bit of fighting in the midfield.
They're fighting each other.
But barely, actually. Ocon's still like a place or two usually ahead of him.
Well, they almost took each other out in Miami.
Yes, but that's just a Miami thing for them. That's just what they like to do in Miami.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just... So, I mean, I think it's a no-brainer that Gasly's gone from there. Where he goes, who knows? But it's just if Ocon also stays. I mean, with the opening in the Mercedes seat and all that other stuff, who knows?
I did see that he was in an interview and still considers himself a Mercedes.
He's still part of their program.
He is part of their program, but he still sounds like hoping for that.
Well, yeah,
a Mercedes seat, whether it's this one this year.
Well, he's going to kiss their ass as much as possible to try and get a seat. Of course it is.
Yeah.
And he should.
Yeah.
He should. I would never take him on, but he should.
So Valtteri could go to Williams or...
I think it's more likely he goes to Williams.
I agree.
I think he would rather go back and finish his career at Williams.
I think he would also like to be with James again.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he was his engineer.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was his engineer for years at Mercedes. So it'd be a nice.
To have that pairing of Bottas and Albon would be pretty good.
Yeah.
As long as they can fix their car, at least they know their drivers will be fine.
Yeah. Which then, we have Albon. Or he was re-signed. He re-signed.
Albon re-signed. Yeah.
For
Albon re-signed.
Multi-year deal. We don't know.
But then you've got Nico's leaving Haas, which we know that most likely Ollie Beerman is going to be in that seat in the Haas. So they just have to fill that other seat because it doesn't seem like Magnussen is coming back.
No. The way he's...
Not that he's not coming back. They don't want him back.
They don't want him. The way he's driving, he's been an awesome team player. He's getting in trouble with the FIA.
But you have a car that can put yourself into a P10.
Yeah.
Possibly fighting for a point or two a weekend.
Yeah.
Which Nico is consistently doing. Even if he qualifies P10, he finishes 12 or whatever.
Yeah. He's
fighting for that last spot, right? You have another teammate who is only willing or only able to, seemingly, play bumper cars and just hold up traffic for that teammate.
Yeah. And he's fighting
where
at
you
the
should
back
be.
Of the pack.
Yeah, exactly. You should be at that. If you're able to fight at that 12 and hold up 13 to 18 for your teammate, you should be able to fight for 10, possibly 9, 11, whatever.
Yeah. He's doing this battling and then ending up, like I said, in 16, 17. Yeah. It's like, and Nico is well ahead. And, I mean, one thing that I can say that I'm a little bit shocked with kind of how the season started is those RBs. Both Yuki's had a fantastic season.
He had one bad race, which was Miami. Miami was a bad race for him.
Yes.
But other than that, he's been Miami's the one where Daniel beat him in qualifying and beat him in because Daniel came in fourth.
Yeah, but both of them have been.
They've been great this weekend.
Yes.
They had a fantastic weekend this weekend.
They've been higher up than they were. I mean, they were sitting at the bottom with the Alpines for the first few races. Yeah. They've seemed to figure it out a little bit. Not always getting points, but they're further than K-Mag.
Well, yeah, and I don't think they'll be consistently like they were this weekend or in the first 2 or 3. But they're a pair that works better than the Haas's work.
Yes. Yeah. Nico's just doing this. And Nico, that was another thing. Nico, this was his first race at Imola.
Yeah, which I was surprised by.
Yeah.
Because he's been around for a long time.
He's been around for a long time, but...
in several different teams.
Yeah. I should clarify. This Imola track. Which
that's changed,
we don't want to get into all of that, but...
Yeah, that's an episode itself.
Yeah.
It's Imola and San Marino and all that other crap.
All of that. So, yeah. What else? What other signings do we have?
Signings, I don't believe there are any. I think those were the biggest news. Yeah. Everything in the back, and biggest one being Bottas, which leaves, like I said, leaves that Haas seat open. Yes. There was I did see today that Mike Crack was saying that, about the Lance Stroll having an unfair seat, being an unconditional seat in Aston Martin because of who his father is.
Mike Crack said that?
Mike Crack said that and
his
said that his
team principal said that?
Yeah, no, but it's unfair that people are saying that why does he have this seat?
Okay.
Or that it's just some sort of nepotism and not taking into account the fact that he's actually placed significantly higher than most drivers I think along the grid.
Okay.
I mean, you could say that.
You could say it all you want.
But his father's also put him in the best seat. The best seat he could be in.
Yes. Because there is no other seat.
There would be no other seat. No, absolutely not.
For him.
Yeah.
So
no.
He's in the only seat.
I mean, I think also Mike Crack is trying to, good on him.
Yeah.
Defend his own job too.
Yeah,
he's got to defend.
Exactly.
He's got to defend. Yeah. He's got to defend
the owner's son.
The heir. Yeah.
So the heir and the spare. But yeah. I mean,
other than that was the only really driver things that were going on.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's lots of other stuff going on.
We did have Max racing in 2 races this weekend and winning 2 races this weekend.
And winning 2 races.
So he did. It was all the news this week that he was going to be racing in the 24-hour sim racing at Nürburgring.
Yes. Insane.
Yeah. So he actually finished qualifying, started the race. Yep. I think he did like a 3-hour stint or something like that. And so in a 24-hour race, for anybody who doesn't know, there's obviously more than one driver, and they just they cycle out because no driver can be in the driver's seat for a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
I know like 24-hour Le Mans is like 8 hours, and then they split that up over a 2 or 4 hour period or whatever it is.
And again, this is simulator racing. It's
this
not
is
like
sim
he went
racing.
and got into another car.
No. I mean, he brings his sim with him everywhere he goes.
Yeah.
So he brings his computer with him. He brings a steering wheel. He brings his pedals and all that stuff with him as he goes. Yeah. But he was competing in this because he has a team that he's part of, this Team Redline, that he does consistently because he just loves racing. And so he did it. After qualifying, he did his whatever stint that it was, put his team in the lead by several seconds.
Yep.
In Nürburgring, and then
went
to bed, grabbed a bite to eat, whatever.
Yeah.
At some point in the morning in Italy, woke up, did another 2-hour stint.
Yeah.
Helped his team secure first, and then went off to the paddock. Went to win Imola. Did his pre-race briefing and goes on to win a race.
Yeah. I mean...
And it was a big talking point for Christian to say that he was very excited that he won his sim racing. I get it. We did a little bit of sim racing this weekend, which was fun.
Yeah.
It's a hell of a lot of fun.
Yes.
But I would never put my sim racing above being in an actual rocket ship.
No. But I mean, this guy, I think you mentioned it before, he loves racing.
He lives racing.
That's all he does. In his off time, he's racing.
He's racing.
He's looking at the tracks. He's
doing a sim racing. He does a sim racing probably 3 or 4 days a week, probably.
Yeah.
On his off.
I know he's talked about it before, about doing Le Mans at some point. I don't know what the rules are with doing that during an F1 season, and if it would follow
there's probably some contractual thing where he's not allowed to be in another race series just for insurance purposes. I mean, that's they're putting a lot of money into it.
I don't know if Red Bull would want that either.
They might put him in a Red Bull car though. They do put Red Bull does do the 24-hour Le Mans.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, good on him. But I mean, like you said, focus on one, especially in a race or a weekend that you haven't been performing.
If it had affected his weekend, then we can make as many complaints as we want. The fact that he did it, and he took pole, and it was probably a point of pride for him. He's like, listen, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to prove all you mother effers wrong, and I'm just going to win both of them.
Just going to do it.
So he takes pole, he wins, he puts his team ahead, he wins a sim race, and then he also wins.
Do you think at this point when Max is like, oh, the car is shit, oh, it's a rough day, you think it's like his dummy?
100%.
Because he does it and
100%.
then he goes out and gets pole. And then he goes out and gets like...
I think it's a little bit of that and a little bit of the fact that, well, yes, it also could be the fact that maybe the car is shit, but he's good enough that he can tame it a bit.
Which shows a difference in your drivers.
Yeah.
Not to bring that back up.
Well, he did say this weekend that Imola is the perfect track for a race.
Yeah.
Whereas Checo said, this track sucks for F1.
This track sucks.
Which, I mean, it's very relevant in what you can see in how they performed this weekend.
Which is probably why Sky Sports was like, worst placement.
Yeah, 100%.
Worst finish.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I think it's a little bit of that. I also think that maybe he's just not used to having that comfort that he's had over the last 2 years, and it's getting to him a bit.
Yeah.
Not stress wise getting to him, but like he's realizing what real racing is supposed to be that he's done for the last 6 years previous to these last two.
Yeah.
I
mean, I would say that this start to the season was a lot better than the ending of last season for Checo, because there was a lot of pressure on him the end of last year.
But he started strong last year.
This is true.
He started strong last year, and then
to go downhill.
I mean, he went downhill quicker than he started this. Yeah. No. He started going downhill probably race 5. This is what, race 7? Yeah. So not much of a difference.
But once we got to Monaco is where he really started to.
He struggled in Monaco. Yeah, he did.
So
it's not looking good for next week.
It's not looking good. So we'll see what happens next weekend. Yeah. But I mean, I think there was fear, or I think Checo's in that Red Bull seat next year.
I don't think they have much of it.
Unless they're willing to take Sainz for 1 year.
I don't think Sainz is willing to go for 1 year.
No.
So I think it's more on. They're willing to take Sainz, I believe. I just don't think Sainz is willing to take it, just the 1 year deal, to go to Red Bull.
Because he's technically negotiating. What we assume, and the rumor is, he's technically negotiating 2 contracts at once. Because he needs a seat.
We would
for
assume,
next year.
We would assume, because I would assume that he's negotiating with Audi for 2026, but Audi wants him for 2025 throughout. But he doesn't want to go into the state car.
I don't blame him.
Don't blame him, coming from the Ferrari. But he's not going to get into a top team, because obviously Alonso and Stroll are in Aston Martin. The only place he can go, I would think is willing to go, is Mercedes for 1 year. But I don't think Mercedes wants him for just 1 year. I mean, they want to look out for their future. Why wouldn't they, right? Unless their plan is to get him for 1 year and Kimi goes into the seat for 2026. But if Bottas goes to Williams, that idea of taking Kimi and just putting him in a Williams for a year is now out the window. If they're taking Bottas, now that Albon's re-signed.
This silly season has started early and
started last year.
It started last year, and it has created. It's
too many pathways in my brain to keep straight.
We are now, I think, the entire grid, paddock, this is chess.
Yeah.
This is not checkers of just you move here, we take you. This is like, we have to make strategic
I think it's even worse.
moves.
I think this is like one of those bingo rollers where all those numbers are just flipping and we're just pulling. Who gives a shit?
Yeah.
We're pulling whoever and we're going to put them wherever.
Yeah. Fair.
Yeah. Yeah. Because then, I mean, even still, like what happens with the RBs next year?
Neither of them have a...
I don't know if either of them do, or Yuki might. But I think there's one free seat.
I know Daniel doesn't.
And still, I don't know that they're both performing enough that they keep one. No. Or sorry, keep both. I think maybe one is going to change.
I think that pairing is definitely going to change.
Yeah, yeah. So, anyways, we're just throwing a whole bunch of other balls into the mix.
Shit up.
Yeah, who gives a shit?
Starting more rumors.
So yeah, anyways, we'll go on with the news.
Yeah.
Other than the fact that there was a lot of upgrades to all cars, didn't really seem to change much in terms of pecking order. Mercedes lost a lot of people in the last couple weeks.
Yeah.
Specifically to Ferrari. Yeah. A lot of people are going over Ferrari. I guess people are just kind of, I don't know what it is. Are they just discontent with the state of where they're at? That they don't want to hang around for another year for new regulations? Because you would assume that now is where design is starting for 2026. It has to. Design for 2026 has to start now.
Absolutely. Yeah.
They're interpreting the regulations. They're putting into the works what they're doing. And these aren't like small players in this in this team. These are aerodynamicists. They're technical directors. They're very high up there people that are trying to put a car together. Like they're the ones that are overseeing every aspect of this. Yeah. And they're leaving before.
Yeah.
So where are they going with this? All teams have the regulations.
Does that mean that Newey's going to Mercedes?
No, he's also going to Ferrari.
Yeah, well, like if you're Fred Vasseur right now, are you sitting in your mega mansion like Dr.
You're renegotiating with
just
Ferrari?
Laughing.
Yeah,
just
100%.
Having a port and laughing.
100%. But no, yeah, Fred Vasseur is Dr. Evil, just sitting there with his little pinky ring.
Yeah.
In his mouth,
laughing it
just
up.
laughing. Yeah, he has done an amazing job with everybody who thought everybody in Italy was like this French guy. Yeah. And I've been to Italy. The Italians don't really like the French.
I've been to France. The French don't like the Italians either.
The French definitely don't like.
Let me just have my line.
No, you're right. They're not a fan of each other's people. Yeah, we'll say people. Yeah, that's probably easier than what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
And that's not our opinions.
No.
That is definitely other people's opinions that have been told to us.
Yes.
So yeah, no, they're very, very skeptical, and I think he has become a god.
Oh, he is their god.
Yeah. I
think Charles has stepped down a little bit of a rank.
Oh yes, no, 100%. Fred is up
top.
there.
Yeah.
Fred is up there. It is definitely in Fred we trust.
Yeah.
Fred
we trust. Yeah. I would say so. He's done so much in a short period of time, and it's for all intents and purposes, Newey is going to Ferrari.
Yeah, and he's done it very quietly. He's never he's not Toto or Christian or Zach where he's a very boisterous, outspoken kind of person. I mean, he says what he's got to say. Yeah. But he does his business. Yeah. And he's making it work. He's
also, I mean, we saw Lando win in Miami, and we don't have to go back into that, but even Fred going and partying with the McLaren team, he is so
He's got no worries.
He's calm, cool, collected. Yeah, no he's problem. We'll make it through this season. Don't worry, we got you next season. Yeah. So, I mean, I think he's...
And I'm sure there were a bunch of Tifosi that were complaining, what are you doing? And he's like, basta. It's okay, relax. Just take it easy. Yeah. Just take it easy.
Yeah. So, I mean, we'll see what happens. But, I mean, Ferrari lost a couple of people as well.
They did, but but they've also gained so many people that probably just replaced them. Yeah. Or people that were in line for promotion, no, we're gonna hire these people. Yeah, fuck it, I'm leaving.
Sorry. Yeah. So, what else did we have?
For news, there was Kevin Magnussen being a dick for some other reason.
Yeah.
Which I guess it's just writing on the wall for him. It sounds like. So all the rumors that Ollie Behrman's going to be the driver for a driver for Haas next year, because he's in that Ferrari junior program and they get their engines from Ferrari. He said, you know what, I'm not really here to teach kids and to be like, you would think as a veteran of the sport, your natural progression is to be a mentor.
You were the kid at some point.
And you are also not, it's not like you're the world champion. We're like, I don't have time for this shit.
Right.
Why not extend your worth by trying to be a mentor to this person?
Yeah. And like,
because now you say that, it's like, well, F you, you're done.
Unless
they've already told them.
Maybe that they're not signing him. But like, you would think you don't have a seat.
No.
The last thing you want to seem like is not unsportsmanlike. Like,
aside from all the penalties.
Well, exactly. Yeah. But like, you're helping your teammate. You're helping Nico, who you had tremendous beef with.
Yeah.
Previously.
And it seems like you've matured. You've become a better person, team player, and then you say that.
And like, if you're Ollie, like, how do you feel that, like, okay, maybe he doesn't necessarily look up to K-Mag, let's say.
No, but you're going to a team where you're expecting somebody. No, but you're expecting somebody that's going to be there, like, not necessarily even a mentor, but somebody that can be there and that can be a friend and help guide you through certain situations. Just whatever.
A young driver.
Now, when that news comes out that somebody else is signed to Haas, Ollie's just be like, yeah, fucking right.
Thanks.
Get out of here. Yeah. He did me a favor.
Yeah, it just seems, I mean, he's going to be coming in quite young, 18. Yeah. Again, we're making it up that he is signed, but it's looking likely.
Yeah.
18. Some of these guys come in at 20, 21, 22.
Yeah.
So they're a little bit older, but like, you have this young guy coming in, think you would want to, like, if the train would be better than you, just work with him.
And you wouldn't think somebody like Komatsu is going to look at that and be like, in that attitude and be like, well, you're definitely somebody I want to keep around.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it was an odd thing, and he was kind of complaining about the penalties that he got. If this is
because they're going to impose harsher penalties now for people that do it purposely.
Yes.
Right. Which is
like, I was just driving.
No, you weren't.
You admitted to what you were doing, so you can't.
100%. Yeah, you said.
You can't backtrack now.
Well, my race was ruined, so I did whatever I could.
Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe he was just having a bad week.
I think he's having a bad several weeks. Yeah, I think he is.
A bad couple of weeks. So.
Other than that, that's it for news.
Kind of it for news.
Yeah. I mean, there was a lot going on. I mean, there's also. I mean, I don't know if you want to talk about it. I don't really want to talk about it, but I'm going to bring it up.
Okay.
Lewis Hamilton making a non-alcoholic tequila.
Yes.
Just seems useless.
I mean, he's been promoting it for a while, but I think now it's like taken.
I think it's ready for production.
Yeah.
Or ready to come out.
Media's picked it up.
Yeah.
And,
yeah.
I mean,
he was also in Food and Wine.
Yes. I sent it to Kevin and I said we should get our hands on this, and he said, I'm drinking tequila.
I'm doing it to get drunk. Yeah. If I got to endure the taste, I mean, I don't mind the tequila taste. Good tequila is actually really good.
Very good.
But usually if I'm at the bar, I'm definitely not buying a non-alcoholic tequila just because it's Lewis Hamilton's. It's going to cost me $35.
I was going to say, the shot is going to be insanely priced to be juice.
Juice, yeah.
Sugary.
I think we were talking about OJ. Just...
Oh, God. No.
The juice is loose.
The juice.
No, I won't.
I mean, if somebody's handing it out,
it really depends. Yeah, if somebody's handing it out, it really depends on how much it's going to be. If it's going to be like a ridiculous price, maybe we'll do something on socials
tequila
for it.
Tasting.
Yeah.
Find the non-alcoholic one.
Yeah. If I got to jump through hoops to get this thing, it's not happening.
Not happening at all.
No, I'm getting whatever I can get, and I'm
working with.
I'll do a live stream on some real tequila.
Yeah. Well, God. I think the last thing we were going to talk about was the F1
What
Exhibtion.
we did this weekend?
Yes.
Yeah, what we did this weekend. So not to put us too much of a pinpoint on where we live. We're Canadian.
Yeah.
We're obviously in Ontario.
Yes.
But the F1 exhibition came from Vienna to Toronto.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's still one in Vienna right now.
Is it still going on?
Yeah, they're doing two at the same time, but they split up
That's
some of the stuff.
That's why we didn't see the front end of Grosjean's car. We only saw the back end.
Yeah, probably.
It's there. It is there. It is there. Yeah. I thought they ended and they're going to bring it over, and I was wondering why we didn't see the front end.
Well, there we go.
There you go.
So we saw the Romain Grosjean
car from 2020
in his fiery accident that happened.
Yeah.
It was an interesting exhibit.
Yeah. It was better than I had expected because, I mean, we had seen all the stuff from socials.
Yeah.
You see all the helmets. You see, you saw Grosjean's car. Yeah. You see a couple of the big things, but it was a lot more interactive.
Yeah.
And fun.
Yeah, informative. There's lots of stuff like. And
they hit on every part of. So they take like the best parts of Drive to Survive, where you actually get to see personalities, people, whatever, and they take you through history. They take you through design. They take you through rivalries, families, how big of a part family life and just growing up in racing is. They go through all the people, like a good memorial for all the people that have lost their lives in racing, or specifically in the Formula Series. It was a great experience.
That was a really good room itself. About all the fallen, I didn't say soldiers, but fallen heroes, I think they called it. But there's a lot of information. It was very informative. It takes a while to go through the whole thing. I mean, we went on a Saturday, so it's also like busy.
It's a guided audio tour too. So each every different spot has different things you can listen to. Whether it's Enzo Ferrari, where he came from, and
Bernie Ecclestone,
Senna,
There's lots of
the aerodynamics of a car and all that stuff.
Really cool. It shows you how it all works. They've got different pieces of different people's cars. They've got race suits. They had
the Haas car from 2019. Was it the same one? It was Grosjean's car, but I don't know if it was 2019 or 2020.
It was, I guess, Grosjean's car that didn't.
Yes, it was one of the ones that didn't end up in flames because the other part of it's there. But
so I mean, if you're in Toronto or Vienna,
or in the area and you don't mind driving, it's a great.
Go and check it out. I mean, it was good. And then at the end, we did some sim racing.
We did some sim racing,
we raced Max.
They had, was it Max?
No,
I was gonna say. There was actually nobody on track, but it's basically timed laps. But you take the F1 game, you're in a sim seat with a Fanatec race wheel that actually has the feedback and stuff, and so we'll put some of that stuff on our thing, but our socials. But it was a good time. I really, really thoroughly enjoyed it. Even the people that came with us, that have no idea about F1 or much.
Well, one person did.
Who?
Brian.
I know, but I'm saying the people that didn't. Brian, my cousin did know, does know quite a bit. But Bianca, who clearly doesn't listen to our podcast, because she was asking us about flags all the questions while we were there. It was all things we've already talked about. Just love the support. And then my other cousin, who had no idea she was even going to this thing.
No.
But she had a good time, I think.
They both had a good time. And on the way home, Bianca, what was your favorite part?
She asked that about every event.
The mom in her.
Yeah. We could we can be going to for ice cream and she'll say the same thing.
What's your favorite part? She doesn't listen to this, so she won't hear that.
Yeah, exactly. We can talk as much shit as we want.
But I think it was really good. It was a good time. If you're in Toronto, go check it out. I mean, we're not sponsored by them, but it was
absolutely
good.
No, it was a good time. It was a good time. It was not like the race this weekend, right?
No.
I would equate going to the race this weekend as like going to like a sex club and not getting any action.
Oh God.
But
don't
know why that popped in my head. Don't know why that popped in my head. Now that I've completely derailed this podcast.
It's time for us to go.
Yeah, just gonna be normal because everything's normal, and we did not have technical difficulties this week.
We didn't.
No, not at all. Definitely.
Technically, we didn't have.
Technically, we didn't have. Yes, we only had brain difficulties.
Yes.
It's
a beverage. Well.
Fresh set and dirty air.
Yes.
Which we did not forget.
Not
at all.
So, do you want to go first or you want me to go first?
You go first.
Okay. My fresh set would be back racing, one in Europe, because I think it's different racing. When we were in Europe, it's just different racing. Anyways, we'll get into that later on. And then just being back in Imola, because we missed Imola last year. So happy to be back in Europe. And
that's a good one. I like that one.
At a track that we didn't get to see last year.
That's a good one. I'll piggyback off that one a little bit.
Okay.
So it's like a 2 or 3 part or whatever it is. One, Charles being the first Ferrari driver back on the podium at Imola.
Can't believe I missed that.
Hulk's first race in Imola.
Yeah.
So it's a very Imola.
Yeah. It's all about Imola.
It's all in here. Just that's weird. You can't even see it. For anybody who's on Spotify has no idea what we're just talking about.
No idea.
Yeah, so I'll leave it at those two. I'll leave those two are pretty good. So yeah, just Imola based, I guess. All of our fresh set
for both of us.
Yeah. Dirty air.
Dirty air. I would have to say, back to Imola. Kind of just being a boring race. I mean, it was kind of boring.
Like, it was boring. Yeah,
there was just nothing really happening until the end, which makes it exciting at the end.
Yes. We had a good
ending.
15 minutes.
Yes.
About 15 minutes, of racing.
Of racing, of what people want to see. So, I mean,
consequential racing, something.
So, I think just in general, just not great. Considering we had such a good week of news and all that, the race kind of just didn't live up to it. So.
Okay. I've got another 2-parter, and they're all at the back. Alonso just having an absolutely horrific weekend. So horrific qualifying and absolutely nowhere in the race.
No.
He was at the bottom of the chart there, and you just didn't even bother to look where he was.
When they came up with the graphic of like 10 laps to go, his name would even fall off.
Yeah, you wouldn't even see him. It would
just fall right off.
Non-important. And in the same token, I mean, Williams, get your shit together, put on a wheel, and don't put your driver two laps behind.
Yeah.
That was.
And we didn't actually talk about this, but they got a penalty for that. 10-second
They did
penalty.
for an unsafe release.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, I get why they do it because it's a penalty. It has to be a penalty.
Mm-hmm.
A little unfair. I mean, it wasn't necessarily on Albon. It was on the Williams team.
Yes.
But they put it on. They didn't realize it could have been a problem with the nut. It could have been a problem with the rim. We don't know.
True.
At this point, we don't know.
But I guess.
But how do you it's not like they knowingly sent him off unsafe. He started to drive and thought, shit, something's wrong.
This doesn't feel good.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it could have been very dangerous. Maybe that's why there's a penalty. But
if he had not felt it or just thought it would have been fine or corrected itself or whatever, and went onto a straight and that wheel came off, sure. It could have hurt himself. It could have hurt a spectator.
I would say a spectator.
Sure.
Yeah. I don't know. Should that be a time penalty or a fine?
I think it'll come down. I don't know what it. Oh, was it 10-second penalty? It was a 10-second penalty. I think coming from the pit crew's perspective as an unsafe release, but given circumstances, I think it should have been a fine. I think we did have not necessarily similar. I guess we've had a few unsafe releases where I think they varied, haven't they? But I think it was during the different times. Maybe it was qualifying. We have seen some fines this year. Yeah. Which was most notably stakes with the nuts coming off and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I mean, I think you have to kind of take into account the severity of it. He realized it at first. He slowly, literally at like 60 kilometers an hour, went around that track.
Yeah.
To keep it safe.
Yeah.
I think it would have been fine as just a fine because the 10-second penalty means nothing
when you're already
when you're 2 laps behind. Yeah, it was 2 laps. He was 1 minute and 22 seconds behind Alonso in 19th.
Yes. And I think George got fastest lap.
Yes.
And I think his fastest lap time was 1:10 18.
Something like that, yeah. In a race situation.
So, I mean, you're already like...
Yeah. I mean, the damage was done already. Yeah. Give him a $5,000 fine, £5,000 fine, and be done with it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like it was anything of consequence.
No.
It wasn't anything intentional.
No.
It was an unknowing thing, and they kept it fairly safe for what it was.
Yeah. Now, the other option that they could have done was not taken the 10-second penalty this go around and saved it, and he would have to serve it in Monaco.
Oh, there's no...
This point, it made, like, you might as well do it now.
Yeah.
You're already not going to be finishing in any sort of points. You're just looking
and he
for
was
data
coming
at
in.
this point.
He was coming in for a pit stop in that same lap anyways because he needed a new wheel. So you just wait the 10 seconds and
serve it
just
and
destroy your race completely, which was already just destroyed. So
yeah, I think if he was in the points,
so I think
at some point,
yeah, and then it's kind of a dirty air on Williams and the FIA. I mean, just not getting the call right.
Yeah, it was dangerous, but
it wasn't intentional.
No.
And then it was just an inconsequential. Maybe that's why they did it. Maybe that's why they did it, because it was an inconsequential penalty. And he's already basically served it.
Like, it's okay. We'll just throw 10 seconds at him. And then he was like, you know what? We're just going to DNF this. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. So that's our fresh set and our dirty air. And now we will not cut to just completely seamless to our socials.
Perfect.
So... Since I guess that's the end, isn't it? Yeah, you just okay. So check us out on our socials.
Yes.
Instagram, X, YouTube, Amazon, Spotify, Apple Music, Apple Podcast, excuse me. Yeah. At Fresh Said Podcast. Like, subscribe, share,
all the things.
Thumbs up.
We'll be back next week. We're in Monaco.
We are back next week. We're back with another. Yeah, I wish. We'll see how my raffle thing for dinner yesterday goes. Maybe we'll be in Spa.
We might be in Spa.
Yeah.
In a couple weeks.
Is that a couple weeks from now? Oh, God.
Okay.
That's like a month. Anyways, at Fresh Said Podcast, I'll do all those things, and then we will see you next week.
See you next week.
Grab a fresh set.
Bye.